my paranormal experiences I have shared previously, and I'm going to share some more on this episode here. My name is Sophia Bierman. I've been on the Travel Channel. I've been on Josh Gates. I've been on IMDb TV. And I'm going to start with sharing some more here. These experiences include various things through January to current. As I mentioned, I'm a psychic medium. I give readings to whoever may request them. I give them throughout the world. People contact me through instant messenger, through Facebook, and Instagram. Things that us psychics refer to them as is remote viewing. I can stand behind somebody as if I were standing behind them and looking at what somebody is seeing, but not actually being there. I have helped people from all over the world. I give them readings. I can tell them what color their hair is, how tall they are, what their name is, how they carry themselves, etc. The first thing that I want to talk about is an incident with a man by the name of Jim. He instant messaged me and he asked me to please help him. He said he thought his father had something of a possession that was evil. My first response was, that was odd. I texted him back and I asked him not to give me any information. I responded with, is it skinny, white, and long? Is it a fishing pole? He said no, but I was close. I said, wait a minute. Is it a cane? It's a glass cane that's bent and you can lean on it. It's got knobby things attached to it so it doesn't slip out of your hand. Jim texted me back and said, oh my God, you're right. I said, is it hand blown? He said he wasn't sure. I said, this thing is very, very old. I asked Jim where his dad got it from. He said he didn't know. I said, your dad is really proud of this thing, isn't he? Jim said, yes, he is. Jim said he keeps it wrapped up. I said, I finished Jim's sentence and he said he puts it on a shelf and shows it with pride. Jim said, yes, he does. I said, I can see him. He puts it in a closet by the front door and he wraps it up in paper. Jim said, yes, he does. And he polishes it. I said, well, he shouldn't touch it. I told Jim, I get a vision that this cane had once belonged to gypsies. Jim said, well, that's interesting. I said, I got another vision that they traveled in wagons with this cane. I said, I also believed that this cane was about 200 to 400 years old. Jim said he had looked on the internet for it to try to see what the cane was worth. He said he couldn't find anything. I said, no, you're not going to. I said, it's one of a kind. It was hand-blown glass, and they attached odd things to it, as I mentioned, so you could hold it. And what I got another vision was two men in black cloaks. It was dark out. And what they were doing is they had another man on the ground and they had top hats on and they were beating this guy with this cane. And I told Jim about this and he couldn't believe it. I said, this is the type of thing that they did with this cane, but it was passed on through gypsies through generation after generation. And I asked Jim, I said, you have 2 children. He said he did. I said, don't let them touch this. I said, because when you touch objects like this, you're going to pass on whatever is through these items, whether it's evil. Jim said he understood. I said, you're the next in line to get this, aren't you? He said he was. He was the only child. I said, if you inherit this thing, destroy it. So he said he understood. He said, but I asked him if he could get it away from his dad. He said he couldn't. So I always tell people, when you go hunting for antiques, you never know what's attached. I suggest that you do cleansings with white sage. Some people are familiar with it, some aren't. But that's what I would recommend, is doing a cleansing when you get old furniture, whether it's you inherit it from your parents or you inherit it from somebody else or an aunt or uncle or something like that, because you never know what's going to be attached to these things. People use crystals and things like that, They call them footprints, but I would suggest that you cleanse anything that you may become in possession with. If you find it at an old shop or things like that, or you go, maybe some people go to Door County here where I live, but that's what I would recommend. The next reading I'm going to give you that I did for a man named Terry. He contacted me, and he had previously lost his wife, and they left on bad terms. Terry and I did a reading over Zoom. And when she passed, they were not living together. So when we did a Zoom with Terry, I brought his wife forward, and she wouldn't say too much. So she would talk to me, and Terry was rather upset. And I kind of explained to Terry, I said, this is just the way it is. I said, Terry, when people leave on bad terms, this is the way they are in the afterlife. You don't forget. So when I was on Zoom with Terry, I said, Terry, do you have a father by the name of John? He said, I do. I said, okay. I said, he is talking to me telepathically. And Terry was surprised. I said, Terry, say hello to your dad. His name is John? He said, yes. I said, say hello. Terry said, hello, Dad. And I was, again, using a Vox box, is what we refer to it as. And his dad said, hello, Terry. And you could hear it plain as day. And everything that I'm speaking about is listed on my YouTube channel, my Instagram, and my Facebook. And you can hear their voices. They say hello to each other. And his dad showed me what happened to him when he passed. And I'm going to be kind of blunt. I'm going to tell you that his dad, and it's graphics, I'm going to warn you ahead of time. So if there's any kids listening, cover their ears. His dad showed me a picture of what he did. And I said to Terry, I said, did your dad pass away 30 to 40 years ago? Terry said he did. I said, your dad just told me that telepathically. I said, he's showing me, he took a chair, he went out into the woods, he put a shotgun between his knees and blew his head off. And I said, Terry, can you confirm that for me? He said, that's exactly what he did. I said, okay, this is what your dad is showing me. I said, I see it repeatedly. I can't get emotionally involved because it goes right over me. But this is what I have to tell people so they have foreclosure in their life, that their loved ones are still here. A lot of people believe that either their loved ones go to heaven or hell. I don't believe that because I know they don't. They're here in a different realm because of what I'm speaking about. They are here. There is another plateau that they stay at. They have another life that they live and they go on living. But when I was talking to Terry and John, all three of us, another person bumped in. And I said to Terry, I said, do you have a brother? I said, his name is Robbie? He said, I do. He said, oh my God. I said, Terry, I said, say hello to Robbie. I said, he's here too. And I said, when did he pass? Terry says, about a week ago. I said, a week ago? He said, yeah. He said, I went to his funeral. I said, well, he's here. I said, say hi to Robbie. And Robbie says, hello, Terry. And Terry said hello back to him. I'm like, wow, that was rather quick, in his passing. So Terry says, well, he's not really my brother. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, he's my half brother. I said, he is your brother. Even though you have different mothers, he's still your brother by your dad, isn't he? He said, well, yeah. I said, well, okay, he's still your brother. So we ended up listening to them talk for a good 20 minutes. So even though Terry couldn't find foreclosure with his deceased wife, he found foreclosure with his dad that he hadn't really known. But that was the story with those. The next one I'm going to talk about was I would get on YouTube and do random readings for obviously people that would want to get on, and either they would get on and type me questions or they would get on and I could see them. And this was done in March of 2023. And it was a young man by the name of Joshua. And it turns out he was from California. And he typed a message to me and he said, "Could you please help me find my brother?" And I said, "Okay, I'll do the best that I can." And I said, "Can you please give me his name?" And he said, "Well, his name is Tom." I said, I kind of laughed. I mean, they can see me and hear me. And I said, "Joshua, I need a last name. You know how many Toms are out there?" And he said, "It's Tom Stark." I said, "Okay, let me see if I can bring him forward." So I do something called calling. That's exactly what I call it. I said, "Tom Stark, I'm calling you and I want to bring you forward." So it took me about 15 minutes to bring him forward. Because what I found out, it had been 10 years since he passed. The longer that some of them are deceased, the longer it takes me to bring them forward. So it took me 15 minutes, and I brought Tom Stark forward. And what had happened was, some of them, if they can't learn to talk, is I asked them to play music to confirm that they're with me. So I said, "Tom Stark, are you here with me? If you're here with me, please play some music." All of a sudden, we didn't hear the normal chime music. We heard guitar music. Joshua starts typing, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, that's Tom. He played the guitar." I said, "So that's him, isn't it?" He said, "Yes, yes, 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 yes." He's typing it on the screen. He said he was a guitar player. I said, "So he's here, isn't he?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Okay." I said, "So your brother's here." So Tom starts talking to me telepathically. I'm getting a vision that they're in sunny California. They're in a green dart with a landau top, which is like a soft top, if anybody knows what that is. And like I said, it's green. They're coming through an intersection. There's two men in the front seat, and they got into a car accident. And they were killed instantly. And I repeated this to Joshua. I said, "Joshua, is this what happened?" And he said, "Yes, it was. That's exactly what happened." And I said, "Tom just told me this is what happened." I said, "Were they going to, quote unquote, a gig?" I said, "In my day and age," I said, "we call it hippies." He said, "Yeah, you can kind of refer to that." He said, "All they did was go around playing music." I said, "Okay, but that's what they were doing. They were free spirits?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "You can refer to them as that." He said, "All they did was go around playing music." I said, "Okay, so that's where the guitar was from." He said, "Yeah." He said, "So they were traveling to a gig." I said, "Okay." I said, "And they were hit head on in a collision." He said, "Yeah, that's what happened." I said, "Okay." So I said, "So Tom is here." So Joshua asked me, he said, "Can you send them to the light?" I said, "So you want me to have your brother go there?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Okay, let me find out." Before that, he said to me, he said he was with his friend, Derek. I said, "Okay, you want me to find out if Derek is here?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Okay, right now I can't remember what Derek's last name was." And I said, "Okay, let me see if Derek is here." I said, okay, I called Derek Ford. Derek was here, and Derek is talking up a storm. I'm like, "Okay, Derek, you're here?" "Yes." "Okay." And he's just talking and talking and talking. So Josh was typing to me. He said, "How did he learn how to talk?" I said, "Joshua, he must have been talking to somebody like me. This is the only possible way he could have learned how to talk. The spirits had to have learned to talk to somebody else like me, or he couldn't have talked so well." Tom, his brother, starts talking. Spirits normally only talk in 3 words at a time. They have to build up their energy again to talk again. Derek was talking in full sentences. I was surprised. I couldn't shut him up. I was just kind of dumbfounded and taken back that he spoke so well. Joshua would say to me, well, I went to a previous so-called psychic. I said, okay. I said, what did she say? He typed to me that she told me Tom was so upset and needed to be sent to the light. I said, okay, let me find out. I said, Tom and Derek, are you happy with where you're at? They both said, yes, we're happy. I said, okay, do you want to be sent to the light? No. I said, do you like the world that you have where you're at? They both said, yes. I said, okay. I said, Joshua, do you hear that? He answered me, yes. I said, okay. I said, your world that you're in, the realm, is it just like it was when you left this earth? They said, yes. I said, Joshua wants me to send Tom to the light. I said, Tom, do you want to go? He said, no. I said, Joshua, I can't send him. He doesn't want to go. I can't do it. I won't do it. I said, I'm sorry. So I didn't hear anything from Joshua after that. So Tom and Derek were talking up a storm. And I said, you know, I'm glad you two both came forward. I wish you the best of luck here or wherever you are. And I closed out the session. And what I had found out later was that Derek is now at my house. That's kind of my nervous laugh, but he's here at my home. That's where he is. I don't think Tom is here, but I know Derek is here. I will hear his name every once in a while. He'll say it to me and he'll call me. And if you listen to some of my reels or some of my Vox boxes, he'll say his name. And I know it's the same person, so he's here. With that being said, the next event happened here at my house on a Saturday night around 8 o'clock. I was going downstairs to the basement by my husband, and I was walking down the stairs, and the wall, when I started going down the stairs, felt really hot. It felt as if it was going to burn the left side of my face. And I walked down and I told my husband, I said, geez. And I explained it to him. I said, that wall felt really hot when I walked down here. And some people know I have lupus and some autoimmune disorders. So sometimes I get a little hot and I touch my skin where it wasn't me. It was that wall. So when I came back up, I put my hand over the wall right there, and it was the wall. There wasn't a heating duct or air conditioner that ran in that area. So I went and got my phone, and I did a Vox session. And I went over there, and I turned my phone on, and I said, what spirits are over here? And I got a woman's voice, and she said to me, she said, it's us, God. Like in an English accent, it's us, God. That's exactly what she said. And I responded to the effect of something said, I said first, us is not God or we. That's just what I said to her, kind of being sarcastic. And I said, God is not us. God is one person, and he's a male. I said, I think you're evil and you're trying to trick me. I said, you need to leave my home. Then I was walking into my living room, and I hear a male voice, and he says to me, you're fat. I kind of laughed, and I said, really? I said, well, that's a matter of opinion. I said, that's only your opinion. I said, you evil entities that are here, I'm not going to acknowledge you. I said, you need to leave my home. If you don't, I said, I will chase you out. So this is an example of what evil gets into your home and they come in unknowingly when people purchase packages. And that's what I had been doing. I had been buying some packages, some retired pandas from Build-A-Bear. And I had forgotten all about it. I was bringing them in myself. So beware when you buy packages, or I apologize, any type of mail, they can come in through that. So again, I had to cleanse my house. So I suspected this is how they were getting in through my home. I brought it in through the front door. So beware. So they can come in any way you want. Even if you put crosses up over your door frames, which I did, I brought it in and this is how it got in. So I had to cleanse my house again. This next event happened here in the last 2 weeks. And it was rather disturbing to me because I had to nail it down to see what was taking place. Now with it being summer, I had my windows open and I walked over my windows. I sat down in a wingback chair and I could hear this on 2 different days. And it was a man's voice and he was absolutely screaming. He was in agony and I could hear it. And I went over and asked my husband finally, I said, do you hear a man screaming? And he said, no. Well, then I knew I was the only one that could hear it screaming. So I sat back down in that chair in the front room and I said, Spirit, turned on my box. I said, Spirit, you've got to help me with this. I said, I hear a young man screaming. Can you tell me his first name? A woman's voice came on. She said, sure. She said, go ahead. She said, his name is Stephen. Then I got a picture of this young man. He was upside down, flat down. And I got the number 28. And I got a feeling that he was crushed to death somehow, but he was no longer living. So it's just kind of some of the weird things that us psychics get, us real psychics get. But it's just, as I said, I had to differentiate whether it was somebody outside screaming or it was a spirit, residual energy that I was hearing. That's why I asked my husband if he could hear it. But that's why this woman gave me the name of him, and she said Stephen. This is an incident that took place in March. I got a instant message late at night from an ex-police chief from Kentucky. And he contacted me, and he wanted a panel of 12 psychic mediums, and he was going to do 2 different Fridays of 6 each, if that makes sense. And what he did was there was a young woman that was missing and we had to find her. So he asked me if I wanted to be on this panel of 6 at a time. I told him, sure, I'll help find her. So he asked me what I needed. I said, just give me her name and her picture. So he sent me her picture and her name was Zion Foster. So what I did was got up my box again and did some, I think it was 2 or 3 sessions with her to get the information what happened to her. So I brought her forward. She did come forward and all this information is recorded. And I couldn't release it because it's still an ongoing police investigation because the person in the end that I'll tell you who did it, they are still going to be charging him with more felonies. What had happened was Zion was a 17-year-old girl and she hadn't seen her older cousin in about 3 years. He's a 24-year-old male. And he texted her and said he'd come and pick her up after school, which he did. And what happened was he had a family, he had 2 kids, and he was married. Again, he's 23, she's 17. He came and picked her up, and he owed money to a drug dealer. So Zion went missing. And what I had found out from Zion was her cousin gave her to this drug dealer. And this drug dealer wanted her for a sex slave. So Zion wouldn't conform. She's a 17-year-old, scared to death. I could see what was going on. He had her in whatever, like a rundown home. So Zion wouldn't conform. And Zion explained explicitly what happened to her. So what he did, Zion told me he first took, and again, this is graphic, so if you have any young ones in the room, please cover their ears. He killed her. This drug dealer murdered her. And then I asked Zion where her body was. Her mother wanted closure to find her. Zion told me that this drug dealer chopped up her body in little bitty pieces and strewn her body in the garbage dump by where she lived. They figured that's where she was, the police did. So they arrested her cousin for this because initially he said that they were smoking pot together and she just died. Well, obviously that wasn't the truth because he said that he dumped her body in the dumpster and he went back to get her and she was gone. Again, that wasn't the truth. So, but that's what I said. Zion told me that where to find her. But out of all the 12 psychics, I'm the one who had the closest information. So her cousin was involved with helping murder her. He gave her to this guy. So that's what happened to her, the poor kid. So her life was cut short because of her cousin. After that aired, that very night, I get actually a phone call on my phone from a woman by the name of Rebecca. And she seemed pretty distraught. And she said she had a young man that she considered almost like her son. She said he went missing. And I said, I'm going to need a little bit more information on who it was. So she gave me his name, and his name was Chance Engelbert. And I said, yeah, I can see what happened to Chance. And I told her that very night on the phone what happened to Chance. He was 24 years old. She didn't have to tell me that. I told her. I said Chance was a skinny kid. He was kind of slow mentally. He was married to this woman's friend. And he got into some type of scuffle at a bar. It was 12 o'clock midnight. He was walking over a viaduct over a freeway, but he had a cowboy hat on and he had a big belt buckle on his waist in front. And I told Rebecca that. She said, yeah, that's what he's got on. I said, okay, well, he's walking over this viaduct. I said, and he's got kind of his head down. I said, because they had a few beers. And I said, but there's a blue 2-door older Pontiac pulled up down the street, parked. I said, there's 4 guys in it. I said, but 3 of them got out and kind of ran up on him, jumped him. One of them stabbed him. Excuse me, I'm going to stop. Again, if there's any young kids in the room, please cover their ears. This is going to be graphic as well. I apologize for this. This is the reality of what I do. They jumped this poor kid, Chance. And there's 3 guys that jumped him on this viaduct. There was nobody else around. They took a knife, stabbed him in the right back. I could almost feel what this kid was going through. that they punctured him in the lung. All the air went out of him. And it's like he couldn't breathe. You could almost feel the last breath that he took. And he kind of almost went backwards, but then he went forward and fell down on the ground, face first. And the two guys on the right-hand side were kicking him. And they stopped kicking him. Then they turned him over and looked at him. And their faces, as if I was like this chance on the ground, looking up. And these three guys had the wrong guy. It was mistaken identity. They went after the wrong kid. It's like, what did you just do? You went after the wrong kid and you killed the wrong kid. So then the kid that was sitting in the car parked down the street, the one kid that was on the right-hand side waved him on. He pulled up with the car. They put this Chance's body in the trunk. They drove off somewhere else. They're in between two states, Wyoming and Nebraska. They drove off somewhere else, and I could see there was mountains in the background, and it was flat where they were. They took his body, and they set it on fire, what they did, trying to get rid of the evidence. So Chance's mother contacted me. Her name was Teresa. And, she's crying on the phone. She said, my son. I said, I know. I said, I feel for you. And I went through the thing with her too. And she said, we suspected that they did this. And she told me, she said, the police thought it was a case of mistaken identity. I said, why? She said, because a week later, they found another young man and a woman, but the other man looked just like Chase and his girlfriend in a storage unit, deceased. So it was a case of mistaken identity. I couldn't believe it when I thought this, when I first saw him looking up at these guys on the ground, because I had told Rebecca that. So she keeps trying to get me to find exactly where the body is. And I contacted Chase 3-4 times. And when I asked Chase where his belt buckle was, I said, your mother wants to know where your belt buckle is and your phone. They can't obviously find these items because his body was burnt. Finally, Chase said to me, I've got it again recorded under my investigations is what it's called. And Chase said to me, lady, would you stop asking me that? I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm going to give it a rest, but I'm going to try to find out again. Maybe in a month or so, I'll try to contact him again and find out if he can take a look around to see where he's at. Some of these spirits don't realize that they're deceased or don't want to acknowledge that they're deceased. But that's what I'm going to have to do. Try to find out where he's at. Give his mother for closure. She's just beside herself. This is a good one. About a month ago, my husband finished remodeling our main bathroom here. And he put in something called a pocket door. And if some of you aren't familiar with it, it's a door that slides into the wall. And this door that we have, it's heavy. It's got 6 panels on it, and it's a solid oak door. It's got a little thing that you can pull the door back and forth with. Well, I was up late at night with our dogs, and they were 10 months old at the time, but they're 11 months old now. And I went to bed with the dogs late, and my 2 dogs, as most dogs, can sense spirits. So I think I went to bed at 2:30 at night. So the dogs were kind of like barking. They knew there was something in the bedroom. So I'm like, shh, trying to get them to calm down. But I was laughing because I knew there was something in the bedroom. So my husband doesn't particularly like this. Well, that's just too bad. So the dogs were both alert and kind of laying at the end of the bed, looking around, and I've got the flashlight on my phone. I thought I better turn it off. So I'm just laying there awake because I know there's something in the bedroom. So I'm laying there and I'm listening, going, something's going to happen. 20 minutes later, this pocket door, boom, slams open. All the way open, but maybe 2 inches into the wall, slammed all into the wall, loud. My husband sits up. I'm sorry I'm laughing, but I found it funny because he's a non-believer, you know? We know how those people are. He sits straight up in bed. This was like 3 o'clock in the morning, right? Witching hour. Sits straight up. He goes, what was that? What was that? What was that? I'm like laughing. Hand over my mouth. I'm laughing. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, what was that noise? What was that noise? I go, the pocket door opened up by itself. He goes, it did not. I go, it did too. I go, the dogs have been watching it. I took a picture of it too. Posted it all over the place. I'm laughing and I circled it because it was only sticking out 2 inches from the wall because we normally close it because the sun, we have a skylight in it. The sun comes through in the morning and wakes us up. I thought it was so funny. I thought, if you don't believe something opened that, there's something severely wrong with you. To this day, it was so funny. I mean, like I said, my dogs are so attentive, but it was so funny. I thought, if that isn't proof positive to him, I don't know what else is. That's okay. If he still continues to ignore it, that's on him. Let's see. I did a reading for a woman that contacted me from England. And she was just totally distraught. And I called her over the phone because I wanted to talk to her. And she wanted to know if her husband was cheating on her. And I told her, I said, no, he's not cheating on you. And I explained to her, I said, he leaves every night, doesn't he? She said, yeah, he does. I said, you live like in a little white brick house. I said, it's all lined with brick, the whole property. She said, it is. I said, when he leaves at night, he cuts out through the kitchen. I said, he has to kind of scoot around the stove to get out. But he takes his coat, he slings it over his shoulder. She said, he does. I said, I can see him. I said, he's skinny. He's got kind of like a long, pointed face. She said, he does. I said, I can see what he looks like. I said, as if I were standing right behind him. She says, oh my God. I said, yeah. I said, I can see you. I said, you're a little cutie pie. I said, you're kind of 5'4", 5'5". I said, you've got kind of like orangish hair. I said, you're probably about 140, 150. She said, I am. I said, yeah, I can see you. I said, I could almost reach out and touch you. She starts laughing. I said, you got to lighten up a little bit. I said, don't let everything get you down. And I said, your husband has a friend from Thailand, doesn't he? She said, he does. I said, but it's a female, isn't it? She said, yes. She said, is he cheating with her? I said, no, he's not. I said, he's not cheating with anybody. I said, and I'll tell you what he's doing. Again, some of you might think this is a little bit graphic, a little bit weird. I had to be real sensitive when I explained this to her. I said, what he's doing is he's going with this woman from Thailand. I said, have you seen this woman in a blonde wig? She said, I have. I said, okay, that's what she does. Puts on this blonde wig. I said, your husband and this other woman, they go to exotic dance clubs. She said, what? I said, that's where they go. They go to exotic dance clubs. I said, what they're doing is they are recruiting women from there to work for them in an escort service. These two think that they are going to make an empire service. She said, that's what they're doing? I said, yeah, that's what they're doing. I said, so they're not cheating. They're not dating each other. They're not doing anything with each other. I said, that's what they're doing. She said, oh my God. I said, yeah, that's what they're doing. She couldn't believe it. I said, yeah, that's what they're doing. I said, I don't see anything else. I said, but that's what they're doing. I said, so I don't know what you want to do with it, but I don't know what I would do with it. I said, but I'd get rid of them. So that's what happened. The other night I had my dog, Audrey, Sunday night, this past Sunday night, I was watching TV and she alerted me to something in the kitchen. She just kind of barked and growled and came and laid at my feet. I was watching TV and I stood up and I knew it was there. People have asked me, how do I know? I mean, I can sense it, but obviously I was watching TV. I was preoccupied. And I could sense that something was there when I stood up. And another woman on YouTube said to me, she said, Sophia, she said, you always say when you're recording something that I know you're there, show yourself. She said, how do you know they're there? With my abilities, when I see something, to me, it looks like it's a blurred image, but it's clear. And I know it's there. I know it's there. In any of my videos, you'll hear me say that, and all of a sudden, boom, they pop out. I just know they're there. I can see them. And I did this Sunday night, and in the kitchen, I started recording, and I did the same thing, and here this thing is, it popped out again. And I've got multiple videos of the same spirit. And I started recording. I said, okay, show yourself. I did the same thing. Well, this one spirit is really tall. He's extremely tall. We have, I think, 8-foot ceilings. And this spirit is about 7 feet tall. And he did it again. And I told him, I said, you get down to size. And, you know, they flash their energy because they only have so much energy to use. So he's standing in their kitchen again by my oven. And there he is. He's 7 feet tall. He's flashing. Well, then he gets down to size by my dog. Then he gets back up, same size. And he just keeps standing there 7 feet tall. A lot of times this spirit, I know it's a male, but he won't give me his name. He tries to intimidate me. I told him, I said, I'm not going to be intimidated by you. I'm not intimidated by things that are, I say, that are not of this earth. If you get my meaning by that, I'm not going to be intimidated by this thing. No way. So I was telling him, you get down to size or get out of my house. You don't have to stay here. If you think you're going to intimidate me, you can leave. So you can tell, sometimes I tell it, get down to size. It does. Some of the spirits too, in my home, they're welcome to stay here. But I'll say to them, why are you sitting on the floor? Go sit on the sofa. And they will. You know, if you're in real life, you're welcome to sit on my furniture. I don't care. Go right ahead. Come and sit by my dogs. I have one that would, same as Jeremy. He would sit on top of the dog kennel when the puppies were little. He would sit right on top of the dog kennel, and you could actually see his outline of his body, and he would bend over forward and tip his head downward into the dog cage and look at the puppies when they're in the dog cage. And I'd tell him, don't fall over. Don't fall forward. And I kind of laugh at him. I haven't recorded. But he would almost look like he was going to fall over head first, you know, on the ground, as if he were a living being person. Then he'd back up. He'd put his head back up. Then he'd come around and sit on the ground by the dogs. But I don't know. It's normal for me to talk this way with these spirits. But, you know, I could tell them, go ahead and sit on the furniture or sit on over there. Or one of them last week here at my home was like floating through the air and then sat in my chair at the island. I said, oh, now you're sitting at my favorite chair in the island. I kind of laughed. I said, okay, go ahead and sit there. So they know, and they listen to me. I know they hear me because when I say something, they do exactly as I say. One of them was by my fireplace, and I said, well, you want to come over here? Come over here by me closer. And I extended my hand, and it came over by me closer. So, as I mentioned to some people before, some people think I'm creepy. I'm not creepy. As I said, our loved ones were once alive. You talk to them then. Our loved ones are still our loved ones when we're deceased. I believe I was given this gift, talk to them when they're deceased as well. I'm just a vessel to allow it to talk to them. I was given this gift for a reason. And that's my story. And I thank you for listening to me.
If you've had a paranormal experience and would like to be a guest on the show, please contact us by going to myparax.com. That's myparaex.com. Thanks for listening.